All of my friends are skinnier than me. In this video, I am not going to tell you why you need to quit fast fashion. Chances are if you've clicked on the video, you kind of already agree. If you're looking for the why on fast fashion, I'm going to leave links to that of my videos and other people's below. But if you're looking for the how, you're in the right place. Hi, my name's Lena Norms. If you haven't been here before, I would love you to stick around and hit the subscribe button and even follow me on Instagram if you're feeling like watching somebody rewear clothes again and again and again. I have not been a perfect soul when it comes to fast fashion, and it definitely took me longer than I would have preferred to give up the ghost. Let it go, move on, Lena, march towards a more realistic future. But I have actually done it. It's out of my life now completely, and I wanted to share with you some of the tips I picked up along the way when I was trying to extract myself from this very weird industry that we've somehow been taught is normal. Now, your 20s is a time where you are solidifying all sorts of things about yourself, and if you're anything like me, you could have worked out kind of early in your 20s what you actually believe and what you actually want to do. But it transpires that as you get deeper into your 20s, it's harder and harder to live by those things that you believe. I think smart people call it cognitive dissonance. Speaking of reducing, reusing, keeping pre-loved stuff in circulation, this video is sponsored by MPB, and we're going to speak about them a little bit later. So I have whittled down my learnings to 10 manageable bite-sized chunks. So grab a pen, grab a cup of coffee, let's begin. Change the conversation. Now, I don't know about you, but it seems to me that humans in general have a huge problem with accepting a compliment. So much so that we need to fill the space after a compliment with something. This is how it used to go for me. You would say, "Lena, love your dress." And I'd say, "Oh, thanks, got it from H&M, only a £5. Because I didn't want to just accept the compliment and sit in it, I had to come up with some facts. And those facts were usually me boasting about having bought it from somewhere that now I realise is incredibly unglamorous in the deepest sense of the word, and also boasting about how cheap I got it, i.e. how little I paid the people who made it. Now, I get that this isn't from a place of malice, it's usually just a default way to fill the space, but I do think that giving up fast fashion isn't always an individual pursuit, it's a collective one. I learned to shop collectively. It was the social thing I did as a teenager, and collectively we will climb out of this hole. So one of the things that I try and do when I'm offering somebody a compliment or accepting one myself is to make sure that conversation doesn't steer towards focusing on the brand it's from or focusing on the price it was, but more focusing on the shape of it, how it looks, or maybe the story that's behind that thing. If somebody says, "Oh, I like your dress," be like, "Oh, thank you. I actually got it on holiday when I was in Edinburgh with my best friend. Have you heard of my best friend? Blah, 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 blah." Talking about people. Or, "Thank you. The colour's kind of cool. It reminds me of like that weird fudge you get in Cornwall. Do you know the stuff? Oh my God, so good." If somebody's in an outfit that I've seen before, I try to positively reinforce that, rewiring my brain and hopefully maybe rewiring theirs. "Oh my God, I love it when you wear that top. It really suits you. It's like the thing that reminds me of you." "Oh, you're wearing that dress again. Do you remember when we wore that dress in Liverpool and got super drunk and then jumped in the sea?" Don't jump in the sea near Liverpool. For everybody's sanity, please. Even if we can't all buy ethically all together as a collective, talking more about colours, shapes, memories, and steer away from celebrating that aspect of the item is a win. Find other ways to be creative. Now, I do agree with some of the critique of fast fashion, that it is often about our insecurities and like these dark parts of ourselves that we're enacting by over consuming stuff we don't ultimately need at the expense of other people. But I also sometimes think that our inclination towards fast fashion isn't always about insecurity and unhappiness. It's actually sometimes something that points to an incredibly positive part of us. This need to keep creating, to keep being inventive, to seek out new ways of seeing yourself and colours together and reinventing moments. It's kind of a good impulse. It's almost, I would say, an artistic impulse. I used to spend hours on those websites where you could rejig outfits like you were dressing a doll, just to see the kind of different aesthetics and shapes I could make on different people. So if you need to browse online, how can you recreate that experience of being creative on the screen? Maybe you want to finally start learning Photoshop or InDesign or PicMonkey. Maybe you want to start browsing book websites and arranging covers together instead of making your perfect favorites list on ASOS. Maybe if you want want to get that kick of adding stuff to your basket, you want to join your local library and start checking out ebooks online. Free dopamine for everybody. But looking at why you like buying new outfits, assembling new outfits, browsing new possibilities, and seeing if you can still honor that impulse inside you in a different way. Now, speaking of being creative without having to buy new, I think this is a great time to tell you about MPB. Did you know that it is not just your fashion choices that can become fast? Creative kit can come with the same kind of disposable: culture. MPB is the world's largest online platform for used photo and video kit. They recirculate over 300,000 items of kit every single year, which extends the life of everything from camera bodies to lenses, memory cards to tripods. We are an MPB household here. In fact, the equipment that you've been watching me film these videos on for absolutely years is from MPB, and our resident photographer and videographer Craig absolutely swears by them. And MPB is not just the Wild West. Every bit of kit you get from MPB is carefully inspected by specialists and comes with a 6-month warranty, so you can stay sustainable without worrying that the quality will drop. If you have kit that you never use, relatable content, and you really want to put it back in circulation so it's out in the world being used, you can turn it into cash without even leaving your house. MPB do free evaluations and doorstep pickup, plus they've got these amazing in-house specialists that will make sure you get a fair price for your stuff. Just like with clothes, used can often actually be better than new and come at a more affordable price. And I love that MPB are on an absolute mission to put camera equipment in more people's hands, extend the life of creative equipment so more people can make videos like this one, and make sustainable and sensible choices while they're at it. When they emailed me, I was genuinely chuffed because I think it's such a good match for this video and this channel, and I knew that you lot would really like hearing about them too. So if you're in the market to buy or sell, or you just want to have a browse around, see what's around that you can make something really cool with, there is a link in my description. Thank you so much to MPB for sponsoring this segment of the video. What a match made in heaven. Now back to the fast fashion. Avoid big physical shops. Now, I don't blame me or you for being pulled in by the retail experience. In fact, it is designed to be that way. In Why Fashion Matters, Frances Corner talks about this move away from local haberdasheries and small retailers in the late 1800s towards this idea of a department store. And a department store is literally designed to be an addictive experience for your senses. Everything from the architecture to the interiors to even the scent is designed to keep you in there. The music to the layout is supposed to say something about who you could be if you stay in this space. And it's exciting. I genuinely miss browsing around the Oxford Street Topshop and just looking at all the different ways I could be if I bought these things. When I was trying to give up fast fashion, I stopped going intentionally on shopping trips to these places. But what I didn't think about was my general footfall throughout the world when it came to commuting and stuff like that. I was always passing these shops because that's how the layout of our towns are designed, so that we pass as many shops as possible when we're trying to get somewhere, even if we don't want to go in. So looking at where you're passing every day, what temptations they hold, and even just rerouting yourself a little bit to walk past the back streets, walk past something else, really helped me. And also when we're getting into those physical, immersive experiences, where else is offering that? I would argue there should be more places, but if you're near a museum or an art gallery or even a garden centre or a florist, old historical houses, walking tours, or even just simply going and walking around a neighbourhood that isn't yours. I personally really like going and poking around my local haberdashery or my local library and just getting that space out of your head, out of your own house, where you are allowed to like absorb different kinds of colour and art without having to pay. Yay! Emotionally detach from brands. Those of you who have been here for a while might remember my cutting up loyalty cards video. Bit dramatic, but it genuinely did do the trick. Since then, every now and then I've started snipping the labels out of some of my old fast fashion items so that every time I put it on, I'm not seeing like a brand name. And I know that that sounds a little bit wacky, but genuinely I think that it does go into our subconscious, this association, this love of brands, because they are attached to the physical items that we own. If you have a loyalty points card, be honest with yourself. Are you genuinely shopping a little bit more at that shop because you know it's going to get you those false points? If so, consider snipping it up, because genuinely I think net value, I think you're probably going to save some money and stop engaging with those behaviors as much. Because again, they're experts, they're good at what they do, I applaud them, it works. They're designed to keep us in that cycle. Hide clothes from yourself. And I say this hesitantly, maybe even instead of having clear outs. Now, I obviously have done a few clear outs on this channel and no regrets. They were all really, really helpful. But I think there is like a point in your wardrobe journey where doing clear outs can almost be a way of you having a clean looking wardrobe, or like getting overwhelmed by looking at everything at once and just wanting a calm, like daily wardrobe opening experience, rather than like whether you really need to get rid of those items. Depending, that is an item by item judgment, I think. But something I've found really useful is actually starting to hide my clothes from myself and put them away seasonally. This helps with like keeping my wardrobe more clear. I used to keep everything for like my whole year in one wardrobe, even though I knew I wasn't going to be wearing half of it because it was too cold or it was too hot. And I got bored of looking at those items every day. But if I hide my stuff and like literally either put it in a suitcase, put it in the loft, put it under the bed, it becomes like a kind of extra shopping trip whenever I get those clothes out again. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this thing. Oh, I'm so excited to wear it again. Tricking yourself into feeling like something is new by hiding it from yourself genuinely works. I don't make the rules. Don't let your clothes speak for you. I know that morally it is okay to dress however you want, wherever you go, but I do get the signs and signifiers of an item of clothing depending on the occasion. If you dress smartly for work, it says, I remembered work was happening, I was ready, and also that I know where I am. I've remembered that I'm in a bit more of a formal situation and I'm ready to like really, really focus. Wearing a nice dress to a wedding says, I'm really excited to be here. This is also a special day in my mind. I know this isn't like every other day for you, and I want to show that to you with me. I want to put some effort in because I'm also excited. Wearing something very dapper or slinky might say, hey, we're on a date and I really fancy you. Can you tell? And I get that. I don't think that's like the most urgent thing to change about our society. In fact, I think it's kind of endearing. However, I think we do overestimate how much people like remember the clothes that we're wearing and if we've worn them before. And I also think that we're able to communicate that in loads of other ways. So say when I've got a really important meeting or an event, I often would wear clothes that I would wear every day, but I'd wear some red lipstick with it or some earrings or something to show like, hi, I'm here, I'm excited. And I can re-wear that lipstick all the time. It doesn't require me buying a big item of fabric. Also, it might come from a place of like your nervousness about being a good communicator in other ways, and maybe looking at that and trusting yourself to communicate excitement, happiness, formality in the way that you are in the world rather than what you are wearing. And also when it comes to like showing who you are through your clothes, I think that isn't a misguided idea. But if clothes are supposed to speak about who we are, surely where they came from is as important as like what color they are. How frequently I buy them is as important as how me they are, whatever that means. I also think that re-wearing clothes makes them more you. Like you really settle into your style when you re-wear stuff you really, really love. And people start knowing you for that. So rather than always having to reinvent the wheel and walk into new look and be like, right, I've got to find an item that's me, the secret might actually already be at home in your wardrobe into looking like yourself. Get to know your life, not just your style. I think, like I said, there's loads of emphasis in this world on like finding your style that suits you, but I don't think that's always a visual thing. Something can really look like it's your style and make you look like you, but if you're not comfortable in it and your body is getting pissed off, it is not your style. I have a whole video about how to practically find a wardrobe that you will actually wear up here. Please click on it because everything I have to say is in that video. But really, fabrics, cut, and general practicability is as important, I think, as visuals. Reframe what expenses to you. I don't think I really tipped into the mindset of really understanding what affordable was, not just for me, but for everybody else, until I met my friend Sophie. My friend Sophie runs the brand Gung Ho, which is a completely ethical and sustainable and amazing brand of clothes. And when she invited me to her studio and she started chatting me through the process and the costs of the fabric and the sourcing and everything else, because these clothes are sewn in London, I actually got to go to the factory to see where they're sewn, it made me realise that we have been taught to pay a certain amount for clothes that is totally fictional. And it now seems to me that a cheap bit of clothing is actually incredibly expensive. You're just forcing somebody else to pay the price. Also, when you're thinking about buying a new item, it's always good to remember that it actually costs you more than money sometimes. If you're already overbooked on clothes in your wardrobe, it could cost you your sanity when you have to tidy and reorganize and find a space for this item in your life. It could cost you a lot of time if it's in a fabric that you know takes a long time to look after and keep nice. And it could even cost you your sense of self if it's something that you know is against your own beliefs, and every time you put it on you're a bit like, oh, remember that time I betrayed myself in the quest for the perfect dress? Turn it off like a light bulb. I have a whole video about spending in your 20s and redefining the idea of what expense is. You can watch that up here. Don't replace buying with buying. By this I mean when we feel like ethical new fashion is expensive, it's because we're imagining that we're gonna buy it in the volumes that we were buying fast fashion. And no. I'm gonna put on screen Sarah Lazarovic's hierarchy of needs, because it's really, really helpful when we envision how we're gonna gather clothes after fast fashion and you have broken up. This is the plan. Can you use what you have? Can you borrow? Can you swap? Can you thrift it? Can you make it? And last but not least, can you buy it? I have tried the formal borrowing online, like literally renting items sometimes, which has been really fun. But I think it's also cool to just nurture a sense of reciprocity and sharing in your friendship group. I know I sound like your art teacher, and potentially I am, but genuinely creating an environment where it's like more normal to ask to borrow something, or like put a little call out on your close friends to say, hey, I'm going to a wedding. Does anybody have a dress I can borrow? Like making that more normal and offering up your own stuff to borrow sometimes will make that more normal in people's heads. I have sometimes put stuff up on my close friend's Insta story if I don't want it, to see if anybody that's literally quite near my house would like it. And if I am getting rid of stuff, I try and pass it directly on to somebody, whether that's through Depop or various other groups I'm part of. Particular favourite is going into the Gumption Club, my Patreon group, and giving away clothes to them. So you might see, if you wander around the world, items that you have seen on my body on this channel on other people, and that's because a lot of the clothes that you've seen in videos I have given away for free to them. When there's something in my wardrobe that hasn't been worn or loved for ages, even though I think it's a cool item, seeing somebody else bloody motorboat it, love it to death, makes it so much easier to have given away. And I really recommend expanding that idea of community, especially if you're like a different size from your friends, because I understand the annoyance when people are like, just borrow it from a friend, where I'm like, all of my friends are skinnier than me. That's been the story of my life for quite a lot of it. So I think that you can also like enter online spaces where people swap stuff, or maybe even in your workplace or something, finding people to directly give your stuff to and being less shameful about asking for help like that is really cool. There's a book called The Art of Asking, all about that, if you want to work through that psychology in your head. But I genuinely don't think that it's shameful to ask to borrow stuff, and I think there's this implication in society that like if you ask, it's because you can't afford it or you don't have the money, or you're implying that. And when we look more collectively and we have a conversation about how we're all just trying to reduce, it becomes less like a shameful thing to do, and I think that's good. Finally, try it yourself. You've seen me on the channel try this quite a few times to sew my own stuff. I made this and I'm quite smug about it. You can watch a video me putting this dress together up there. But even if you don't intend to become a sewer, take it up as a hobby. I genuinely think it's a really good exercise to do just on your own, just once, just to see, even if you're using a hand needle and like one of those tiny sewing kits you get from a supermarket, just to see. This dress took me about 14 hours to put together, so if I was paying myself minimum wage plus the cost of the fabric, it would not be a H&M price, and I am not even a skilled worker by any means when it comes to sewing. I really enjoyed this tweet from Bethany Rutter. This is a cardigan that she made, and she said, if I paid myself living wage times the number of hours it took to make this, the cardigan would have cost me over £400 before I even added the cost of yarn. When you do it once yourself, even if you can borrow a sewing machine, or even I've been hearing about libraries that have sewing machines, or like I said, just do it by hand. Just seeing how hard it is to make a piece of clothing and knowing that all clothes are handmade, like there isn't a machine cutting out all the pieces and stitching them together, like somebody is literally doing that, will blow your mind so hard you won't be able to put the bits back in, I swear to God. Thank you so much for watching this video. Tell me your complicated thoughts about fast fashion in the comments, whatever they are, and if you have any tips that are better than mine, you better believe I want to hear them. Thank you so much to MPB for sponsoring this video, and to the Gumption Club for making this whole channel possible. I would love it if you would stick around to have more silly and exciting conversations like this one. If you would like to watch more videos on clothes, they are here. Frog Snog out.